Welcome to the channel. This is Reliable Rudy. Uh, gonna update on some of the positions. Just got done eating some lunch and looking to do like a 30 to 40 minute live stream here. Just kind of following up. We did take a trade on CVNA, so I'm sure there's other people out there that have been interested in this name as it's been getting a lot of volume and a lot of movement to the upside. So trying to capitalize on some of that hype. As it was holding, it gaps down and didn't show weakness down here. We thought, there was some potential in this. And actually, what put it on the radar for me today is I was just watching a podcast while I was eating, and somebody took a trade on it right into here, and all I simply did was just kind of mark out the bodies of these lows over here, and you can see just marking those lows. I seen it reject it, and I was sitting here eating, and I said, you know what, let's try it off of this 50 top. There's just marking those previous wicks. I said if it pulls back into like 55s, which 55 and 52 off of this previous high were my two fills, and I was on the bid for a 50. The wick low on this comes down to 51. We had 3 trims on this name on the ways up. We got our 50 fill, and we also went on the bid at 20.35. And why 20.35? If I just mark these highs right here, this is kind of the price that I was looking for it to hold. So getting a fill as low as I possibly could at the time was good. We had some outs on this original candle up to 2060, which was above all of my entries over here. So that was a key, get a piece of this reload out at a higher price than I originally bought. So we checked that off the list, and then we went on the bid at 2038. I kid you not. No, 2036. I kid you not. We missed by 2 cents on a reload to enter some more size. What did we do? We got our 2065 fill. We respected the highs around 75, and then we got a top print. We had a couple more prints in there, just small size, and then I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, we got a 2107. No, we just respected 21 flat, and we wanted to see if this could, get into the middle of these wick candles right here. So that is what we're looking for with Carvana, and just kind of mapping out this was also a potential channel. I can actually just retrace everything that I've done. You guys can see exactly how I had my chart beforehand. So we're on the daily here. We're still, and that's how we had it set. So we were looking for this channel to kind of break right here. It wicks up to it. We respect it at 65s right here. We take another piece off, and now we're kind of breaking through this channel, and you can kind of see the uptrend that I had set right there. And also when we broke this channel, a little bit of volume increase, but in terms of the down moves, it's been consistent volume, red candle, consistent volume, red candle, and then a little bit of chop, and now we're starting to see a little bit of increasing. Could this end up being some sort of double top? If I just clear out my entire chart, could it be something like this that we're trying to work out, and something like that, where this uptrend that I had marked, does it even mean anything? If it's able to break over top of these lows, which is kind of what put it on the map for me, is when it was rejecting these, this could potentially turn into an eventual breakout price. So getting an entry right here and right here kind of made sense when you look back at the daily. Ton of strength. Are we going to see another extended high? Do we see some sort of potential for a channel coming in? Maybe. Is this the high? Would it be an unparalleled channel like that? So if we do go for another high, just making a parallel channel, I do see we're fighting and trying to hold. I'd say 20 flat's a pretty reasonable level, but just marking some gaps to the upside. We got a gap right there and a gap right there. Previous low starting the gap, and maybe mark this low. So looking at that, that gap does get filled. Does that leave room for further room to the upside? Maybe. maybe. So we're not counting it out yet. So going back to the 15-minute chart, let's clear everything out. Just get a clean look. If this can somehow take out these lows, which we're starting to do, we're going to go right over to the tape right now and take a piece off and just try to keep nursing this position, hold a piece for the dream. So I'm just going to mark it out of a few shares right here. And we're going to take a print. Let's see where we get the print at. And we got a 21.22 print. You know, we're sitting at 21.27s. That's fine. We're still holding. If it can get over top of these wicks, I think it looks really good. Maybe put a test up to that 22. Just maybe, if we're lucky. But a nice green candle. A little bit of update on the Lucid trade. This is kind of how we have it set. We don't know if either of these uptrends. I normally like 3 points of contact for an uptrend, but also a potential wedge pattern to the downside maybe for a further break north. We still have not changed our thesis that, you know, this is kind of early entry, playing around over here at these lows at 6. You know, do we want to hold a stop down to like 607 and maybe average in a little bit more to it? That's kind of what we're looking for. Is it going to give us a test of 6? Is it going to retrace down to the gap up? So we gap up from, you know, 620 up. It doesn't have the weakness. It holds 25s. You can kind of see that on this opening candle. You gap up, it tries, but we take out that candle. Before, we probably had something set like this as, is this some sort of potential channel? We thought that we can get it. We never got any prints up here. We were looking for 650s. We never got it. So sometimes that kind of sucks. And reevaluating it, you can see these previous lows should have been respected. We thought when it got above this wick that we were going to have a chance. And then we were going with the catalyst that, hey, this can hold and then break out some sort of wedge pattern right here. Is this how it's going to play out? I don't know. I don't know. So maybe we could go put a stop in, but then, you know, you have this neckline. There's a lot of places that this could eventually just hold and just trade sideways. So we're just kind of watching this one. We'll put an alert 1 penny down and see if that goes anywhere. I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you guys are tuning in, you guys are looking for Carvana. Everyone loves Carvana. So yes, let's see if we can get some further movement, and you know, might as well just go on the ask in front of 2150 and take a small piece off. So this is roughly 7% of the trade we're getting ready to take off. Let's go 2148. And if that prints, we'll gladly take that print. And we're at 2148. So let's see if that's going to give us a print or not. And we do have it, 2148 print. And now we're just kind of hanging out. And the one thing I do like about this candle, even we have 8 minutes left. And look at the volume. So as long as this doesn't leave like a large wick at the timing of the close, I like the structure of this candle, and you know, anything that we trim, we could maybe think about, you know, potentially reloading off 21. Of course, that would be the trims above 21, but if this wants this, you know, remain bullish to close the day, we're going to try and hold a piece of this into the close, as if this is some sort of retracement, that 22.25 and 23.75. This is not out of the question for potential extensions. If we're talking about 21.50, we'll say average price, you know, working. We just took a 4% trim. We're looking to take 6, 8, 12, 15. If we can hold for even higher than that, we're all for it. Looking at it from this perspective, I'd say, does it need to retrace and kind of hold, retest this 18 level? So that could be a catalyst for, is this a potential trend line right here? And there we are through 2150s. So let's see if this can make a run up to 22s. and we'll think about taking another piece off there. We were watching TMC, just didn't give me enough sideways action to take it. We looked at this volume off the beginning and we said, hey, this name has been pretty strong. Clear volume difference there. Gaps up, never fills the gap. It just kind of sideways day. Now you get a gap up, taking out some of these highs. We did identify this 110 for a potential. Had it came down to like 90, then your risk to reward is a lot better for that gap fill. Where taking it right here, how does it act? I mean, 6%, yes, that's a good trade, but just wanted to see more information on it. Obviously, it's nice looking back saying, hey, you're looking at the right names. It just didn't give you an entry. And had I been pushing for an entry, it would have been off this previous top. But obviously, a red engulfing with the descending channel, not every time you're going to get just a move right up through that. So, you know, with a grain of salt, of course. And let's go peek back at Carvana. Nice little move. As long as we have 5 minutes left in this candle, I like the increasing volume. If it sets any close of a candle like this, we're going to feel pretty good about this pullback and maybe even adjust this trend line and say, hey, that's pretty confirmed right there. Maybe if we pull back 4 candles from now and we're sitting at 21, we can maybe think about it. But then that could also give us potential outs if that breaks that trend line to the downside in any way. So high on this candle was at 21.53. So a 21.48 print, not looking half bad now. And who knows, even my print at 22s, you know, we sold in the middle of this green candle, just kind of respecting these lows over here. Just a small trim, and we're going to keep respecting the position. The phrase I use is nurse the position. Intel is on there. We haven't had any trims on Intel. We were looking for upper 33s towards 34 high. So this might need just a little bit of time to kind of play out. I can see some sort of catalyst for, maybe. That doesn't look very good, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is golden. But maybe. Just maybe. I don't know. I'd say this is a little bit more solidified. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's not really much of a channel there. Could be early signs of it, but I think the bigger picture is actually this descending channel that it had. Sort of like that. You break it, third candle, trying to close at some levels, nice greening golfing candle on the top end of that, and bull flag continuation. So does it have the strength to kind of take out these highs? You know, if it was something like this, I could see maybe some sort of channel like that. But Carvana pulling back in. It doesn't look like we're going to get the juicy close on the candle that we were looking for. So a little bit wicky. Still got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left for this candle to kind of develop. Could we get a little bit more off now? See, now my first trim, respecting these lows, you know, doesn't look half bad now. Yeah, see why it's just, you know, just because you respect the level and it goes further where you trim, there's nothing to say to yourself is, oh, why did I cut some shares there? Because you might look back 5 minutes later and say, oh man, that was a good trim. I'm glad I respected that level. But the goal always is get an entry, respect some levels, get maybe another reload the position. You get a solidified entry, trim some levels, and hold a piece for the dream is kind of playing both ends of the spectrum. So we still like this for continuation. I would expect, you know, this previous high at 2106, maybe catch a bid, and even a false breakout at 21, pulling into like 2095 could be in the cards. It's in the middle of the green move. We still have a minute left. I expect this candle to set a close around 21.25 unless it turned red. I don't think we're gonna see it. Maybe. I mean, there's a minute 30 left. We got time for sure. And there's 21.25. The more we have a minute 20 seconds left, the more of a green engulfing candle this can lead could play a big difference when the price pulls back into like 2090s on how many people are going to be willing to buy it. Looking around, we do have some other names. The FVRR reload, looking pretty good and not looking as dumb. We were calling this sideways consolidation area, and we just took a fill right around 28. I think we alerted it right at the open, 27.93, and when it claimed 28, we just put the order in off 28, and it gives it to us on the following candle. You can see the buying pressure. Now we take out the highs, one consolidation candle, bull flag continuation. Early entries to this name, in my opinion, could it be early channel look? Whether this pulls in over here somewhere like this, I don't know if there's any legitimacy to this whatsoever. But we did get a positive break, and we're looking at this as, hey, we're testing some previous highs, trying to hold this. Let's put an alert in, and if it alerts us, let's reload it. So we took our early entry on this gap update, bought the gap, put a stop in underneath the body of the candle. Never gets there. We respect some levels to the upside, and our top print was a 29 flat. So I wish I could sit here and say, yeah, we respected the top end of this all day, 29.25. No, we just respect 29 flat, and we didn't reload it right away. We waited, and today we pulled the trigger on the reload. We're just holding. Can we respect these 29s again if it gets there? Yeah, we could. But that is the title name for that. DAL. We got a 40-20 print on DAL and respected AAL as well. But we're not denying the fact that the airlines, the travel names have been strong. Nice move. We're just respecting these wicks over here. We actually think that we're going to get up at 44. That doesn't mean go punch in for it. Obviously, my scenario is different. We're talking about this down here at 33s, 34s, taking positive strength, bull flag. Let's reload it off these highs. Okay, let's respect the gap. So we have outs at 37. We have outs into the downtrend. We have outs up at 40. Can we get a bigger dream move up to the top end and see it truly respect this ascending channel? Where, playing the bottom end of the channel, we were calling out, over to these highs, meeting up top end of the channel, 34%. Well, now from the current entry, 10%. And to the downside, always know your risk. Who knows? Maybe this needs to pull back in to the top end of the channel first. Maybe it has to pull into the longer term trend line or the medium term channel. 14%, you'd be holding it against you. So, obviously every scenario is going to be different. But CVNA, we do have a close on that candle now. Let's go take a look back at it. So the close on the candle came in at 21.22, so pretty close to that range. And now shaved bottom. Can't take out this wick high from the previous candle. I'd look for some sort of green candle up to 21.85 if it can do that. But nice increasing volume. You have a wick of selling, but we're taking those sellers out and testing 21.50s now. We should go take a look back at Lucid. I know why even look away from that. I'm not giving up on this trade just yet, just because I think that you could have some sort of wedge pattern that you reject, you hold, trade sideways. And is this an early look for some sort of ascending channel like that, where maybe it just trades sideways for a while? Or is there a bigger picture where this could be some sort of uptrend, and this meets over like this? So am I selling at the low right here for a potential move up, who knows, 4%? Respect some levels, 4% ends up turning into, who knows, one day we're up testing in the middle of this gap, you know, that's a lot better risk reward, in my opinion, of course. GSIT, we have been watching this one. We are not discrediting this name and this uptrend that has been holding, and we've traded this name and done very well on this name. So just when you have a stock that is, you know, you're doing good trading it, you're getting good reads or uh, good outs. We've been in and out of this name, I think 3 or 4 times now, and we don't want to. We've identified some dream moves up here that is possible if that you can get this. So if we're talking about maybe holding this uptrend and we break out, I don't want to miss out on the big move. It's nice to get a nice pop from here to here, yes, and then you get out, and then you take a nice pop again, and you get out, and then you take a nice pop again. That's what we're looking for. Look for another entry. So let's go ahead and just put an alert right here. I think it's worthy of putting an alert. And let's see if that can do anything for us. Looking back at Carvana, and here was the move I was looking for. We were expecting it to wick up to that level. So let's go get ready to take another piece off of this. Getting caught in other trades. And is that the wick top? Maybe. Just maybe. 10 minutes left on this candle. We're not looking to make any rash decisions just yet unless it's pulled back in really aggressive. And here's 2150. Got a little size holding it up. That size is getting eaten up. Now I'm sure there's people out there that were taking the trade right here. And I can understand. You take a trade right here, you gotta respect this level. You gotta respect those tops. So, I mean, this isn't gonna scare me out of the entry that I have. You know, it would need to break this trend line for me to think, okay, let's think about exiting the position. But, you know, I'm gonna be patient. I think we can get maybe even a wick up to like 22s, maybe 2190. The high of this candle is 2180. So pretty damn close, and here it looks like we held 50s pretty good. We're not looking to cut right here. We've already respected this level. We've respected 2148s. There is a lot of size on the ask right there, which is a little bit scary. That was 370 lots. See how fast it can happen though, guys? Had I taken the trade, like right here, or a break over these highs, there's no way I would have had the audacity to look at a different ticker and risk missing this fill right here. I completely understand. That's why it's just a lot less stressful. You get the entry starts working for you. You respect some levels here, you respect some levels here. Okay, you try and buy back a few here, and you just kind of let the position work itself out. It's not very stressful. And here we're getting the move through 75, 77s. This is kind of what I was looking for. And let's go ahead and just take a piece off it right there. Let's see where that fill comes in at. And there's 87s, that's fine. We got 78s on that print. Let's go on the ask at 22. In front of 22. Take another small piece off. Oh, 21.95. We'll just see if we can get the fill. I mean, we think it's entirely possible we can get up to 20 at our next level. So it's wicking into our identified tops right here. I'm sure you could play this somewhere all through this range, even like 22 flat, which is what we're going to respect. So kind of like that. That's kind of the window that we were looking at for a sell window. We went a little bit early. We got filled at 78. Can't always be perfect, but I'm glad that I respected it. And let's see, maybe this pulls back into 21s and we can think about reloading the position. Invax. Man, oh man. That is truly building a nice wedge, flat top break, at 825 break. We're not going to let that one go without us. Take a look back at Lucid, still at this 630. 4 or 5 minutes left on this candle. Another option that we could have is, it catches a bid up to 32s and we just get out of it. We would say that this is probably some sort of descending channel, some sort of descending wedge. That could, all in all, break against us. And boom, red golfing candle right through all of it. GSIP still just kind of hovering. Not any volume coming into it. That trend line though, full red engulfing right into it. Look at that hold. Kazim, is this gonna have any weight to it whatsoever? I don't know. Probably not. And Carvana is gonna give another test. Let's see if we can get filled on 95s. We're on the ask, looking for a trim. There's 95s. Let's go see if that gave us a fill. Why not? Let's go take a peek, see if that gave us a fill there. And we did. We got a 21.95 fill. I'd say that was my respective 22 flat, so I'm not even going to put an order there. But I am going to respect up 22.25s, and if this keeps following, try and hold a piece for the dream. I'd feel a lot better on a reload if it pulled back into 21 now that we just got that fill. And we're feeling pretty good about this one. Yet another 15-minute candle of increased volume right here. We can even go look inside of that volume a little bit. You can see, nice move. Nice higher low, takes out the high. Consolidation, boom. Nice stair step. And on the 5-minute, you can see the consistent higher volume. One pullback candle of decreasing volume takes out the high with increased volume. Mr. Drift. How we doing? We're sitting in a little Varna. We got tired of people talking about it. Had to come show them how it's done. A little backstory on it. We were watching just some podcast, and some guy was trying to take a trade on this. And all I simply did, I went and marked these previous lows, and I said, man, you're taking this trade right into resistance. And we took his, I wouldn't say stupidity. Obviously, he had a plan that he was trying to execute. Uh, and we took a fill. We were trying to get 50s, didn't. I had 3 trims to the upside. We reloaded. We got our 50 fill, and we got a print off 2035. Respected some levels at the time. We were looking at this as some sort of descending channel. We were trying to get 65s here. We didn't. We got 65s here, and we respected it, the levels all the ways up. My best print is a 2195. And we think that this could potentially be some sort of ascending channel. To take this out now that we don't need that. And my out is hold it as long as I can. And my out's probably going to be this trend line. But we could think about reloading the retest of this support area. Rejects it, rejects it, rejects it. Now it breaks. If it retests that area, does it hold? Yeah, so that's the Vana trade. Yeah, I'm doing good. Nothing too crazy today. We trimmed some of the airlines, Delta and American. We said when we trimmed it, not every time, believe it or not, we had a 40-20 print. We were looking for 45s. We just said, hey, we're right there. Let's take a chance at it. We got a 40-20 high day, 40-21, pulls back in, but we think we're going to get mid 40s. Just kind of respecting these highs, but the dream move, we're looking for top end of this channel. And breaking this downtrend, does it need to pull back in and hold on top of the downtrend before we break higher? Maybe. So trim some airlines. We were looking on a trim for Intel. Never got the trim. We're looking for 34s, give or take, right around this breakout level. So maybe this wick high could be respected. It's 33s, but strong name. I don't see a need to rush to any conviction. So we're gonna look for the wick tops right here. So like a 30, 350. If it comes back up there, we'll look for that. Following the rest of the chart, the Lucid trade. We're trying to do with Lucid what we did with FVR last week, and it looks like it's just going to be a dud. We tried it over here, got stopped out. We thought maybe right in around this 32 range, let's try it. Does this uptrend hold? This is the only thing that's keeping me from selling it. If we just clear the whole chart and say, hey, you could have some sort of potential channel build right here that we could be trying to respect. Kramer, how's it going? Just kind of going over a few of the trades that we're sitting in. Nothing crazy today, nothing of any size. The only thing that's notable, I'd say, is the Carvana. Just looking for a consolidation pattern back in here. Why I liked it, just clear the chart. Strong name, you got eyes on it. It showed a nice red engulfing candle on this day, and it was just holding this level for the start of the gap down. So shade bottom, put it on radar. The big thing with Carvana is I was watching someone else trade it actually, and they were buying it right into these lows over here. And I was like, it's taking out the highs, 3 green candles, 2 consolidation, consistent volume, nothing crazy. So all we did was respect these previous wick highs. We were trying to get 50s, we didn't, and then we were respecting the body candle highs. So not every time does it work out like this. Just because one trade is good, I am all in to CVNA. You're all in. Hey, I hope your entry is better than mine. I mean, we're sitting around 2050s. But I know that one of the big things I do in trading is I use strength as my indicator of the house. So your true positive break on strength is right after the earnings date, actually. As soon as you take out this high, and you hold. So all I'm going to do is mark the open price, and this is the price that it's holding. So at any point in time through this, you could have taken a trade because you have positive strength, decreasing volume. Now when you take out this high, you want to see that price hold. This is the candle that takes out that high. There's your volume increase. One pullback candle, you gap up, never fills the gap. So somebody was trying to short down to this gap, believe it or not. So you get a gap up, somebody's trying to short this down to here, and when they're not able to, that's where you get the influxes of volume. Uh, I believe short-term trading. Now you say you're all into Carvana. Every trader is different. I want to say that. But short-term trading, if more people, so the current price is 21.79, right? If more people buy on the book at that price than sell, the price is going to go up. And that battle rinse and repeats over and over and over again until you have a closing price. And it starts over the next day. If you're looking at long-term trading, I feel I would use higher time frames where you could have an ascending channel like this, and you do have some previous lows that you're trying to fight through. If you can fight through that, maybe the next previous lows. Also, this gap right here is should be put on radar as it was filled directly. So somebody obviously identified this, whether they got in lower or at a higher price or they're trying to short it. Uh, so it's always about, do more people want to buy than sell at a given price? And my goal is to try to figure that out. So we do have a nice print. And from where my entry is, I'm looking at this as some sort of trade. My goal is to get the entry, hold a piece for the dream, respect levels on the way up, hold a piece for the dream. If I'm sitting far enough in the money, then I'm looking to try and hold it into the close and maybe get an exhaustive move. So another thing that I like to do is to kind of help with outs is I'll just use just a fib tool. And we were respecting these 22s naturally because of these highs, and it's right at a fib level. Your previous low on this wick that it rejects over here, right at a fib level. Previous lows, right at a fib level. A lot of people don't have the 702 retracement. I think the 702 is necessary to add into your retracements, as I look at the 702 as the most deadly to the upside and to the downside. Obviously different scenarios can be played in right there, but just the fib levels just kind of naturally work themselves into solid areas of support and resistance where it gives you a little more confirmation that, who knows, this could be a short-term low for the time being. But anytime it's a retracement, if you want me to do further analysis on it, I don't know if you're still tuned in or not, but anytime I see that 702 rejection, the first thing that goes to my head, so let's say the 702 is somewhere in here. I'm not marking a trend line, I'm just marking the move up to the 702, give or take. You see, up to the 702. If it rejects that level, it's the start of a wave pattern where you have this uptrend right here. Now, let's say this isn't set perfectly, but then you pull back in, you hold these lows, and you coil. Now, this is where a lot of deciding comes in, as you're going to have this sort of descending channel potential right there, where if this can't hold, you're going to see this retrace down. Now, what else do I see right at the bottom of this channel? Is one, you have previous highs. Two, you have the gap up. So we gap up from this area, right? Somebody on this day was trying to short it down to here, and he got stopped out at some point in time. I can't guarantee you that, but that's what I'm looking at. So anytime I look at this, now I'm just going to clear my chart and mark a potential for how this is playing out. Now the time frame is impossible to tell, but in a sense you're looking for a wave 3 pattern down to this gap, where that could be a chain reaction where you reject this low and you see a further move to the downside where maybe you have a more longer term channel, sort of like that. So until it can show me it can get through that 702, this is why I say hold a piece for the dream. Until it can get through these retracements, I'm saying to myself, that is a possibility. Does not mean that's what's going to happen. For all I know, this is a strong chart. Why do I say it's strong? Because your strength, you have positive strength, you have increased volume. Now, if we take out this high right here, I'm looking to the left of my chart and saying, hey, this is an area of resistance that, who knows, we trade here, we trade back down, and we end up taking that high out as well. Obviously, short-term trading is very hard to predict. I may be rambling on. I hope that wasn't the most confusing. But that's what I'm looking for. I just try to get an entry. One strategy that I use is, a lot of people say buy low and sell high. Sometimes you have to buy low, buy low, buy low before you can sell high. But there's other alternatives that can be done, and that's buy high and sell higher. So I'm not trying to get this entry right here. I could, depends on the scenario, but I want to get an entry at a higher price. When I have more clarity, we're getting a positive strength, we're holding positive strength on a 15, and a lot of times when you get your entry, it's going to tell you when your entry is good. So right here, when I see increased volume like this, I know this is a pretty solid entry for the short term at least. So even though I've already expected that this is going to trade down, when I see increased volume like this, the only thing I want to see in this current candle is decreasing volume, and I'm focused on the next 3 candles from that first red one. So I'm telling myself I'm looking at 35 more minutes for this to potentially trade out, and who knows, if it's trading and showing me wicks into like previous highs, previous levels, I'm sure VWAP could potentially be in this range as well. Then I can think about, okay, I got some trims up here, I can add back into the position if I want to. So that's a little bit of what I see with Carvana. Whether you're able to follow through or follow all that, I don't know. Very complex. But moving right along, we got a little bit of time. Like I said, I'm looking at 25 to 35 minutes left on that. The Lucid trade, on the other hand, I don't know if this is going to pan out or not. If I wanted to just get out of the position, I could set a stop loss, maybe, it's right at 25, so you have a potential uptrend. I could just cut it right here and maybe even buy it at a higher price when it shows me that I can respect this trend line. Requesting some tickers. Okay, yeah, I'm all for that. Any tickers that you ever want me to look at, I have no problem looking at them. So on a 15-minute chart, I'd say you have really good strength, potentially some sort of uptrend in right there. Is that some sort of ascending channel that's trying to fight through? Maybe. Let's look at the daily. First thing on the daily, where's your positive strength? Your positive break is over here. So you have to anticipate that true longs potentially got in on the break of this wick higher, which this is where we start seeing volume increasing, or maybe even looked at this as maybe a flat top. Confirmed higher low. So is there some sort of trend line, early signs of a trend line right there? Maybe. Could this be a neckline? So you see how you're rejecting this price. Let's move it right there. You reject it, and now you gap up over that. So that looks really good that it gaps up. Now you could have had buyers, a lot of buyers sitting here saying, hey, gap up, buy the gap. It doesn't give you that opportunity, and a nice increase in volume as well. So anytime looking at some sort of neckline break, if this is a left leg, builds a neckline, higher low, I'm looking for, now stay true with me here. I'm looking for a price to actually test up to like 550 and then a retrace back down to the neckline. Now if this pulled back, like it has nice increasing volume. If this had a couple candles of decreasing volume trading down towards this level, I'd expect 350 to be pretty solid support. And why do I say 350? Is that's the wick high of this previous day right here. So obviously my entry, looking at this right here, would have, had it been on watch, I would have probably just put an alert right here. As soon as that alert triggers me, boom. I would have been looking for a pullback. I would have never got a fill. So I would have got alerted. I would have been looking for a pullback to these highs, and I would have been looking to get long right in here and just trim some levels to the upside. So it looks pretty good. Not something that I would try right now. This would be like, okay, do we get some red candles come in and I can try and get an entry in right here? I don't know. Fubo, I have Fubo on the watch. It was actually an alert name for me a couple times. I think this 2 break is what we're looking for. Here's your positive break on this gap up. It's an earnings day, a lot of green volume, nice sideways consolidation. Do you have some sort of uptrend channel trying to be made? There is a catalyst. You have a gap over here that I would need to fight through. And then I would say these lows, it does reject it. So if you were looking at a 2 break, I would definitely respect the levels as they come in. But I do like that it does have a nice positive break. If it does have increased volume, here's your 1, 2, 3 candles. So I'm looking at this as some sort of bull flag right here where you probably had, oops, let's clear the chart, where you probably had some sort of descending channel right there. Bull flag, increasing volume, you get the positive break. Now this wick top has a bit of increased volume right here. This candle would scare me. But now that you got the gap up, anybody short in this candle, as soon as they're out of the money, which would be your 2 break, they're going to either have to cover, buy back, or sell their position because they're going to be. Now, is there a big short sitting at that level is what I would be wondering. But you can see, not the greatest looking channel off that daily. I'd say it's more so set like this. Why do I set it like that? Is because you break through it, gives it up right away. Okay. But now on this day you gap up and this is what the closing price holds right there. Do you have some sort of ascending channel building right here for a 2 break? Maybe. So that's Fubo. I think it just needs a little bit more time. Your breakout price is without a doubt too, I would say. Now does that mean that it can't wick up into like 206 and that's a high for that day and then it breaks out another day? Maybe. So TSP, I'm not even looking at any of my trades. CVNA, I'm okay with it just trading sideways there. The one that I would hold a little bit more regard is probably Lucid, which, I talked about a retracement up to that 32. This could be a potential exit. Does it end up holding 30s at another date? It's showing me a little increased volume, but my strength isn't there. And as I said, we're trying to kind of bottom pick. We're playing this 6 support right here. So not the most size, but TSP, I'll keep going forward. TSP, I like these setups right here. Anytime I see consistent, solid volume on a green move, I want to try and make this move into 3 candles. That's my goal. So for this one, I might even have to use like a weekly, where I don't think the top end of this pole would be set yet. Maybe a monthly, you're only going to have 2 candles, so we have 18 days left in this. I don't think this pole is really done making itself out yet, where if you were trying to find an entry, maybe the daily could give you that. When you take out this high, you see how you hold 213? That's kind of like the flat top right there. So this is what I was talking about with Fubo, where you get a breakout, and that's just the level. The breakout level is just what you want to see hold. You don't get, now when you take out these highs, this was a lot of volume that came in. I don't know for what reason. Looks like they're still unprofitable. It does have some decent revenue growth. 225 to 7. I don't know what they're projected, 8. Fast growing. Is there some sort of downtrend in here where maybe we're testing that, so this could be a catalyst for, okay, let's see if this can turn into some sort of retracement play, where if we rejected this, how does the half hold? I see we do have some tops in right around that half as well. So Are you fortunate enough to get a price down to there? I don't know. I would need more information on this one. I would say a breakout price. Let's just start with, can it fill this gap? Did it fill that gap? Pretty damn close. Man, this is a tough one. I would say you would, if you have an entry in right here, respect some of these levels. If not, you could have an out around the lows right here. So get it as close to these lows as possible. Yeah, that's a tough one. You got TSP 150. Hey, you're golden, man. You got this. You got this entry. This is kind of that flat top break right here where you got your entry. You know, you got a really good entry. Probably the retest of this high right here would have been, let's go mark that and see what this 150 is looking like. Yeah, so I'm sure you got some sort of uptrend that's holding. You get the gap down through it, and 150 still holds. Yeah, really nice move. You can see this was a nice breakout. Building a flat top, reject, reject, reject. This is how. Boom, boom, boom. Set an alert, get triggered, get an entry. I would have been looking at like a 175 would have been an ideal entry, and I would have just respected the levels. Still hold a piece for the dream. Yeah, no, you got a 150 entry. That's a golden entry. Whatever. It looks like probably this tested up to 150. The retest somewhere in here or in this. I see nice 3 candles right there. Right there. So you had a wick top bottom, started the trend line. You wouldn't have known it at the time. But 3 nice candles, 1 pullback candle, and then you were able to get the breakout. This would have been tough. You would have had to really identify that trend line right there. But, you know, a lot of volume at the close. Yeah, that 150 entry, that's a good entry, man. Would have been better than me. I probably would have maybe tried a 168 if I was watching it the whole time. That 170 break was legit though. That's a nice flat top right there. The big thing when you get an entry, you respect the levels, and you know if it never comes back into your entry, you can kind of hold for the dream. So I mean you got good strength right here. Yeah, looks good. Good analysis. It's probably not the most typical type of analysis. I try to find your positive break and identify some sort of breakout level. And I believe big players are around this middle ground. This could have turned against you, and you would have had people sitting short right here had it pulled back underneath of like 1. And then shorts get control, and before you know it, you're back under 75. So there's so many different ways of looking at it. Normally, I have a lot more comfort. The better the financials of a company, the longer I'm willing to hold it, and the more I'm willing to bet against strength. So Bank of America was a good one. Uh, I I have personal beliefs that I think the banking will work itself out. Now that's not financial advice or anything, uh, but I like to see companies buying back shares, lowering the supply of shares. That increases my supply or my total ownership in a sense. And just I look for high margin companies that I believe will still be around 20, 30 years from now. And I want to see those companies returning value to shareholders in a sense. Do you hold any long-term stocks? I try not to go in depth of any long-term stocks that I'm holding because I don't want it to influence anybody to make rash decisions. I try to get good companies, and I'm actually more of my long-term holdings are ETFs. And I would say if you are willing to listen to it, my thesis is between the world's economy. So I'm a fairly young guy. I'm not sure the age that you are, but I'm fairly young, and I believe that no, when I'm looking to retire, I think the world's economy is going to be a better place. And my goal in VT has 9,000 different holdings, 60% United States, 40% international, and for me to have 9,000 different holdings, I basically own everything in a sense. Obviously, there's like 36 or maybe even 60,000 different tickers on the stock market. It just gives me broad diversification. And VXUS, I matched the VT index with VXUS, as this is 90% international, 8% United States, and I think 2% cash balance. But between these two holdings, this has 7,800 holdings. Between the two holdings, I have 1,600 different companies that I hold. One's more international, one's more United States. In my eyes, 40 years from now, if the world's economy is better, then this is a no-brainer to me. Does that mean that it can't pull back down to like 35s? No, it's possible. Anything's possible in the stock market, obviously. But more of my long-term holdings, uh, I want them to be cash flow. I believe that long-term investments, long-term trading is a weighing machine. I believe anything, whether you're talking about equity, ETFs, stocks, crypto, I believe it will trade near its long-term intrinsic value at some given point in time. The time frame could be 10 years, the time frame could be 20 years, but I believe everything will trade near its intrinsic value. I'm a firm believer of that. And that's why I always insinuate that short-term trading is just a voting machine. Like we're looking at the cows index right here. This is another index. It's 200 companies in the United States that are free cash flow. It's called the cash cows for free cash flow. Uh, and I believe that long-term investments, if the company can print free cash flow, their bottom line is going to prosper in the long term, whether they're returning that free cash flow to shareholders or not. I like to focus on cash flow and margins of a business. That's probably not the greatest answer, uh, but ETFs are more of my long-term holdings. I do have individual holdings, uh, like that I will try and swing trade a little bit. So like Intel, I was trying to buy Intel through this. I wasn't perfect, but it was a long-term play that I looked at. And I was able to actually cut the position and try to reload it at lower prices. So Intel was need to look up those ETFs. And the big thing about ETFs is always understand expense ratio. So the expense ratio is going to get taken out whether you like it or not. Some are going to have high expense ratios. My VT has a 0.06 expense, whereas if you were looking at Kathy Wood, the ARK Invest, I think the expense ratio is over 1%. So 1% is getting taken out every single year, whether you like it or not, nothing you can do about it. So I want low cost ETFs with broad diversification is what I'm looking for. I would say I do have personal beliefs that I like oil companies. I don't know if that ties to you, but XLE is a newer ETF that I've been building into, and simply because just looking at oil earnings, yes, oil is prospered a lot in 2022, but just looking at their earnings reports, they're still putting up really good margins. They're putting up gross of 60 to 80%, 50 to 80% gross. They're putting up profit margins of 30 to 40%. Their earnings year over year aren't as good, but with that free cash flow, they're buying back shares, they're increasing dividends. I think that's a long-term business model that will prosper in the long term. So I am intrigued by some oil. And I would say if you just wanted broad diversification in the oil, XLE is going to give you, I believe it's 20% ExxonMobil. So get an understanding of ExxonMobil. It has 18% Chevron, so get an understanding of Chevron. And looking at those two companies, that already makes up 38% of the ETF. Well, you look at the two companies themselves. ExxonMobil has a 50 billion share repurchase program that is going to be executed over the next few years, and Chevron has a $75 billion share repurchase program. Buying back shares, increasing my ownership, leaves more room, less dividends to be paid, so further increases of dividends. So, I mean, long story short, I believe long term, and is it going to outperform some tech names on the year? Definitely not. Obviously, we can see how tech has done over the course of 2023, but I'm a little skeptical on just some of the hype. Uh, I like to have a little bit more conviction, a few years of just more consistent financial statements, and there's a lot of indecision. I believe when you're looking at some tech companies, some of the industries have very high margins. So when you're looking at an area that has high margins, is the barrier to entry safe enough where you don't just have some of the big tech come in, swoop in, and steal all the thunder, and then you have failing companies that are regarded that. So it's really tough to say. I do hold tech. That's the beauty of VT and VXUS, is it's the same thing as the S&P in a sense, but you get a little bit of exposure to some international, and the weightings aren't as high. If I went and looked at I can pull over what the weightings are for the S&P. Let's just go pull over. We'll just use the SPY, and we can look at the holdings. This is your 500 largest companies in the United States. You're looking at 7.5%. The top 10 holdings, I'm sure they're top 10% holdings, 30%. It's all just big tech names. Just big tech names. Uh, I mean, over the course of the long run, the S&P, Warren Buffett said himself, never bet against the United States. And big tech, I'm sure there's people out there that are taking a lot of pride in saying, "Oh, I told you should have bought Apple. Oh, I told you should have bought Microsoft. Oh, I told you should have bought Amazon. Oh, I told you should have bought Nvidia." And in a sense, are they really stock pickers for just going over to the S&P and saying, "Hey, these are the largest companies in the S&P. Yep, I'm just gonna go post some videos on buying these companies, and oh, they went up. Now I'm a genius." It's just I don't know. Obviously, they're very good companies when you have the data that you have now, right? You look back to 1980. You couldn't just go look up someone's financial reports in the matter of 10 seconds. You had to freaking mail in to get the financial reports. They had to open the mail, actually deliver the package back to you, and you would then receive the financial. You get enough smart people in the same room. Obviously, they're going to come to the conclusion that, hey, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, these are all great companies that are going to be here for the long term, right? You get enough smart people in the same room, they're going to come to that conclusion. So is it a surprise that you see Nvidia? Uh, Obviously, I'm on a PC right now with Nvidia products in here. I have AMD products. I have these products. I use them. They're very good. They're not going away anytime soon. But does it justify for, just a few years ago back in 2014 it was trading at $5? I don't I would rather just buy an index if I was interested in these names. Personally. Is that financial advice? No. But that's a little bit of my 10 cents on ETFs, and I was talking about oil. Are you seeing Nvidia buying back, billions of dollars worth of their stock up at this? No, they're still diluting shareholders. So to them, I look at them as, hey, that you're very smart for issuing more shares when your stock price is up here. The stuff that you're going to be able to do with that capital and reinvesting back into your business is going to be very good. But for a shareholder, uh, I'm not very interested in getting diluted. So I want to see the return of free cash flow get returned to shareholders, and that's what I'm looking for in long-term investments. I hope that answers your question, whether you're still tuned in or not. I should get back to the trade. We have 30 minutes left of the day. I can get sidetracked very easy. So the day when I'm live streaming and I got, let's say 10 people in the chat trying to talk about different tickers, it's gonna be a blast. I'm very excited for when we get that consistent uh, viewership and just talking as unbiased as I possibly can. I'm not gonna be perfect. No trader's gonna be perfect out there. If you have somebody out there that's bragging about a single play that happened over the course of 2-3 months. You know, uh, congratulations, I'll clap it up to you. It's a good trade, but I like to see, if I'm picking an individual stock, I want to see something that has sustainable moves over the course of the long term, like 3-4 years. I'm going to be sitting here 3-4 years from now, looking back to these days when I'm talking about it, saying, yeah, a move over the next 4 or 5 months is great, but over the long term, if you're talking about a true long-term investment, uh, I just don't see 4 to 5 months having any true meaning to long-term stock price. Drift, it's good to have you here. Drift has been loyal since he found the channel. I love this guy. Uh, yeah, so looking over to the Carvana, let's try and focus up for these last 30 minutes. I will say this is kind of what I was expecting. We said 25 minutes from now we're going to be looking at this. 1, 2, 3. There's your 3 pullback candles. You have a little bit of red engulfing right here. Indecision candle coming in. And now we are starting to leave a small wick into this. We have 10 minutes left in this candle. Does this wick into these 21s? I'm sure VWAP is probably in around here somewhere. I'm sure we have some sort of uptrend building in right here. Do we have buyers trying to hold up this 21? And can we take out these wick highs, which I would say that drags over to this area? 22. If this breaks over 22, this is looking very good. I'd say just a retracement through that. I'd say 22 is going to mean 22.85. We'll see if that has any legitimacy. But we rejected it briefly over here, and that is our half. Looking around, GSIT. I did want to make sure I kept my eye on that. Man, is this the trend line that's going to be the holder? I don't know. We're right here. We're right here. Does this need to pull back into like 7s first? We have an alert set on this. We were hoping it just got alerted. Sorry. Ones. One second, guys. Just gotta respond to a message. Yeah, so watching GSIT, man, is this gonna be the trend line? Let's just clear out the trend line right here. Oh, looks like we got why is this video is suggested to me out of random? You know, Chief Kwan, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. We're just so over here in a couple trades, trying to talk market talk here at the close. Got 25 minutes till close. We're in Carvana for a trade. Not the greatest entry, but we were sitting right around 20.50, so we are in the green. Took a fill here, had 3 trims to the upside, got a fill at 50s, and we respected this sort of trend line that we had set. And that trend line was meeting into these tops right here, so that's kind of what we're looking to do, is add into that. We identified a possible descending channel right here, where we got trims up in the 55s, and we were on the ask at 65. We got the fill at 65. We respected the tops. We respected the previous lows over here. 2 fills in off those lows, and we got 1 fill at 95s. We have a 21.95 fill from our entry, and we're looking at this for a bull flag continuation. I'm looking for buyers to come in off of this flat top that it was able to break through, and now we're looking for that to hold, and we're looking for a breakthrough 22. That is what we're hoping for. If we wanted to, we could think about reloading off 21s with everything we trimmed above 21s and see if this wants to start building a U-shape pattern off of this trend line. So I'm going to take this descending channel out, and that's what we're looking for. Lucid's going to be a losing trade for us. We said to ourselves if we wanted to cut this, we could cut this at 632. But then we risk selling near the lows. We have a potential start to an ascending channel on Lucid, so that's what we're looking at there. What else were we looking at? FVRR. I don't think we even talked about FVRR since you got back, or since you joined Kramer. But this was an early entry, kind of like what Lucid was doing. We were looking at this as, okay, it's respecting some lows over here. We can go to the daily. We had these lows that I was trying to close above. See how we're trying to close above it? Well, we get the close above it. We gap up. All we did was buy the gap. We respected the tops at 29 as a potential channel, and we reloaded it this morning. Why do we reload it this morning and not over here? Is because we wanted to see it hold these wick tops. If it didn't hold those wick tops, we were looking for a price to come deeper in the 27s. Well, we get the gap up, fills the gap. We can go to a 15-minute chart and look at that. So here you can see the gap up. Is it this candle? You gap up, you fill the gap. Now we had an alert at 20. We can go look at the alert price for it. We had a 27.93, so not a perfect alert, but somewhere right in here. When we got triggered, all we did was put an order off 28. We got filled, and now we're looking for it to give us some further moves to the upside. We're looking at maybe potentially these highs over here right around 30. We can respect 29s again if we wanted to and reload this trend line. So that's what we got with FVRR. What else? I don't understand anything about the stock market, but you seem a nice guy, so I'll subscribe. Yeah, I appreciate that. Nobody's perfect, and like anything in life, you got to start somewhere. So I started somewhere in the middle of 2020, and I started being more of a trader. I mix in both long-term swing trade and day trades. My goal is to get the entry, like over here. We got the entry, we respect some levels, and we hold a piece for the dream. I use strength as my indicator. So we did get a positive strength. Not every time you can get your entry at a lower price than strength. But now that we're sitting positive strength, my out on this name is probably going to be a claim back negative on strength. But looking at CVNA, we are interested in this 21 level, and we're interested in holding this into the close. And this is kind of what I was talking about for this candle. We said over here, now that this is going to be a red candle, we're focused on these next three candles pulling back into these previous highs where we can think about reloading it. 20 minutes left in the day. I'm probably just going to stick with the position that I have. And if it gives up this trend line on the day, I would say my out is probably going to keep it green, probably underneath of this wick, so like a 2080. If it did that, I'd be a little disappointed in myself if I held, if I held it and then it gaps down on me tomorrow. So, like I said, my goal is to get the entry, trim the levels, hold a piece for the dream. My dream, we'll start with these previous lows up here as a dream move, give or take. So we think there's a little room left in Carvana to make a run to the upside. That's what we're looking for. Exactly, you are very knowledgeable. A lot of people are scared to make mistakes. At the beginning of 2023, I feel I took a pretty big step forward as I started making a lot more trades, and I learned a lot from my mistakes. I try to use my mistakes and take the positives from any trading experience, whether it's good or bad, and use that information to be better moving forward. At the end of the day, I believe a true understanding of why stocks go up and down is something that a lot of people lack. At the end of the day, we're sitting at 21.19 right now. The book, there's going to be buyers and sellers on the book. If more people buy than sell at a given price, the price is going to go down. I want to find the levels that more people are going to buy than sell. So I took this entry right here. I was sitting there. Had it given up like 2020s, I probably would have been out because down here at 2020, I think more people want to sell than buy. But obviously right here, as soon as we broke this descending channel right here, in my opinion, more people wanted to buy than sell, and that's why you've seen this. And you can also see the volume showing you early signs that, hey, more people clearly wanted to buy this name once it showed them that, hey, this isn't going to be a descending channel. But I was fortunate enough to get an entry down here near the lows. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to be right the next time. On my trade, I almost lost everything. Going forward is all that matters. I agree with that drift, 100%. AQND, now awakening some money. AQND, is that one that I looked at? And here we're sitting at this 2109. So does this turn into another scenario where, hey, you have a potential descending channel? Does this trend line hold? Something like that, probably not set perfectly. But I'm really focused on this uptrend. Is this what is going to hold us moving forward? And more importantly, probably these highs right here are the levels that I want to see it hold. So are more people going to want to buy off these highs and the uptrend than sell? And if this price wants to start turning up, you know, I'll feel good. If I wanted to reload the position, if it was at like 1240 in the day, I would probably think about buying this position at 21. If I was somebody at the end of the day looking for a trade and I didn't have an entry, I would probably be interested, but I would already be trimming this name as soon as it tests this previous wick low. We go to a 5-minute chart, you're going to see this a lot better. See how I just marked that previous low? This is what tries to hold. Now we get kind of a flat bottom break. Well, now we're showing wicks towards this uptrend. You can see a little bit better of how this channel could be playing out. If this uptrend gives up temporarily, you know, you could still have some buying come in off these highs over here. So a couple different ways of looking at that. You said that, and now making some money. On my first trade, I almost lost everything. And now making, okay, I got you. I get what you're saying. Yeah. So I don't really use a 5-minute chart because a lot of times this looks like an out. Oh, you're setting newer lows. You're setting newer lows. But the 15-minute chart kind of keeps you away from that when you see that, hey, yeah, it could be a stair step right here, but all it would take is for it to catch a little bid, and this starts to curl up, and more volume is going to start coming into it. So starting to turn a little bit green here. This is the third candle, 27. All we want to see is this uptrend hold, and we'll feel pretty good holding this into the close. Now, if it gets the price up to these 21.75s, I can get a little bit more off. From the initial position, I should go check and see what. Gee, it's been so long since I was on my account, it logged me out. That's normally not typical. That's understandable. When I start talking, you can't stop me. I'm going to keep going, and the only way that I'm going to stop is if someone cuts me off. It's not intentional. It's just I can't help myself. So we actually have under 50% of this position. We have about 42% of the position left. So holding this into the close, I'm more than okay holding, because I mean, even if it gaps down against me down to like 1950, we've taken out over 50% of the trade, and I have no interest in selling this with this setup. It's holding a nice uptrend. Is this going to be some sort of ascending channel where, you know, we have some levels up here? Here's your half. Is it reasonable to get up to a 22.90? I think so. And we're starting to kind of break this downtrend. Only 13 minutes left till the close. Man, there's just not much time left in the day to make a decision on something. That's not my cup of tea. I like to get the entry early. That way, at the end of the day, I'm deciding whether I want to hold or sell. And I should check back over the Lucid. See how I talked about rejecting this level? You know, we're just going to cut this. We're going to retrade this tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised to see this gap up. But we're just going to get out of this name, and we'll reevaluate this one for tomorrow. We had an alert underneath this all day. Had it triggered, we would have watched it intently at this uptrend potential right here. We're probably selling this at the frickin' low, which is what sucks. And I already I already said that I don't have much size on it, and I don't. So maybe we just get a better read on this. See if 6 can hold. We have a gap fill that we could hold at 21s. Bottom picking isn't my cup of tea. And when you go over to see how the daily candle looks, you can see 3 red candles. The same way to the upside, I use 3 green candles. And I want to see the buyers coming in the middle of that green move. Same thing to the downside. 3 red candles. I want to see the sellers come into the middle of the move, and you can see it. And it's also putting that wick into the previous lows. Tries to hold, tries to hold, tries to hold, gives up the price. Now we reject that level. Now it's about, can 6 hold? Can this price over here hold? If it gives up that price, do we come down to 6 flat? So I'm just going to make the tough decision. We're going to take a small hit there, and we'll move forward. Looking at Carvana. We're going to clear this chart out. That's just too much of a mess. Oh boy, oh boy. We did have forward up there. I'm not even going to start with the forward position because there's so much details that plays into this. Long story short, we identified a wedge pattern. We started our position a little early. We respected the wedge, and we got rewarded with it. We had outs at the gap. We had outs at the trend line on this day, and we had outs on Friday as we were approaching this gap. So we're looking for a 1430. I'm just okay. I didn't trim any of it today. We're going to look for 1440s. And we're looking at this as a potential trim window. And hold a piece for the dream. That's always key. If this wants to run up to 1550, we are all for it. What else was there? The Intel trade. I don't think this has ever got to a level. Pretty dang close. We're going to be more willing to trim this name tomorrow. If it gives us a gap up, we'll trim right at the open. And if it runs higher, we think it's possible. You know, you have a descending channel, you break that channel, you test the top end of it. Now we're getting the move respecting more of the long-term channel. So if I were to trim some right now, I'm telling myself, hey, I'm potentially giving up 8%. Get the entry, trim the levels, hold a piece for the dream. That's the goal. Looking at Carvana, I don't think it's going to make any ridiculous move into the close. We're just going to hold it. As we're holding this uptrend, if it gave up the uptrend aggressively. But I will say this does have, if it gaps down tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised to see it print more for this. A 1950, 1970 hold. You have some previous tops up there. The entry actually today was that level. There's your 3 green candles, 2 pullback candles, and this is where we started our uptrend. So I would say the true longs got in on this initial move. You know, you could say true longs maybe got in here. But a nice build. We think that this can run further to the upside for sure. Did we have anything else that we were... Oh, yes, Neo. Neo. We had an alert on Neo at 8 all last week. Right there. We put the alert in. Let's see. Did that. Neo right there. It triggered 792s. We re-put the alert in at 8. Right here. There's your 792 break. We re-put the alert in at 8. Gaps up. We weren't ready for it. Now I'm sitting there wishing, man, I could have got an entry some way, shape, or form, because we were looking at this as a possible uptrend. It would have been tough holding it into the close because it was below that uptrend right there. But this is what we were watching. This is what we were looking for, a break of 8. It gapped up. It gave the entry. I agree. Neo had a pretty decent setup, and I could have a better entry than what I could, but another part of it is this wick attempts to get to that gap. Pretty damn close. So if I just mark that top gap, you see how that came right in? Man, get an entry over here, you trim that level, reload it, now you're doing some damage. Now you are doing some damage. But yes, we had an alert on that. The other alert that is going to make me upset to go back to is the go-to trade. Uh, Man, we paper-handed this one. We identified the descending channel, the bull flag. We could have even bought in around 290s. We didn't. We bought in at 2 to 215, or 312 to 315, and we got stopped out. And now look at it. It's gonna have this bull flag continuation that I'm not gonna be happy to see play out. Is it some sort of tight consolidation channel to the upside? Maybe. But nice positive break. Volume came in. Yeah, that one's gonna suck looking at for sure. CVNA. And you have AMC if it breaks 5. You know, you might not like my thesis on AMC, but everything points to me that this is leading to $1. So I know you're gonna sound crazy. It's gonna sound freaking absolutely nuts. But I think everything on this points that I think that this could print down at $1. And there's your dollar. I think that if you get an exhaustive move, here's your gap fill. If it keeps respecting this level, you know, your breakout price is actually probably like a 7. But until it doesn't trade inside of this channel, I can't trade AMD or AMC. Whether it gets all the ways to $1 or not, if it traded sideways long enough and held this range, maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I can get on board with it. This $1 I think is going to print. And maybe even some days below it where we retest it. And Lucid. And that's why we got out of Lucid right there. The Lucid finally printed that move to the downside. And this is kind of what we expected. We said 32s. It was going to reject these lows. You have a wedge pattern to the downside. Like that. Right at that trend line. This very well could be the low here on Lucid. Very well could be the low. I just would rather buy it higher over here when it shows me a little more information. Only 4 minutes left. There's that wick into it. It's gonna be tough to say. You know, maybe. Yeah, until it just, like I said, I like to buy higher. If it showed me, here we're on AMC right here. If it showed me some good action off this gap, this is where I'd be looking to maybe bottom pick and then run stops underneath. Your stops is going to be a chain reaction, possibly down to 2. Then you reject the previous low, and it's a slippery slope down to 3. You know, one of the things that sounds crazy would be Mullen, is it was trading in a descending channel. And this is why I never really wanted to trade Mullen. As soon as it broke down this channel, I said, oh boy, watch out. And the shares, I mean, this has been just nothing but a knife to the downside. I would rather see it trade out of the channels. Obviously, this is more excruciating pain than what AMC could do. I don't know, I just got to see more information before I can have any faith that it could break out. Because for all I know, this ends up ripping and we go back up to the highs. I have no clue. Like I said, I'm just a guy. I'm just a single guy. Just because I'm saying something doesn't mean that, oh, that's set in stone the way it's going to be. Short-term trading, if I've learned one thing since I started being a trader, is it is very difficult to do. Very difficult. Things can change on a freaking dime. Now, I'm not saying that it's a coin flip. All I simply did was mark a descending channel and said that, hey, if it can show me it can get out of this channel, okay, there might be something there. But until it trades out of this, I can't trade it. But I will say, let's clear everything. This is another little trade where you have a left leg, you set a neckline, double top, you set a low, even, higher low preferably. You get an extended right leg that breaks over top of these highs. One day, you can say to yourself, we're going to backtest the neckline. Well, we backtested the neckline. Boom. Your trade from the neckline, had you traded it the first day we got there, you know, you probably would have had a couple fills in through here. 107%. Take your profits and run. Is that what's happening at this neckline? I don't know. I don't know. Well, I do know BBBY. BBBY, geez, this looks like it's going under bankruptcy. I don't know. These aren't really my cup of tea. You know, I would wait for strength. I would say you have your negative break on strength here. You could have given it this trend line right there. As soon as it breaks that trend line, there's your true negative break. As soon as it broke that trend line, if you were just waiting for positive strength to come back into this name, you still wouldn't be in it. You would have maybe had one simple trade, but what would have kept you away from that trade would have been this gap fill. Oh, we're going to wick towards that gap. Let's see it fill this gap first, and then maybe we can find something. Well, nope. You never get positive strength. You did have the volume. More selling than buying sends her on down. That's what I would say about BBBY. I would say AMC definitely has better looks than both of the names we talked about, just because, you know, you do have this base of support at 4 that has held up pretty good. Does it hold up there the next time? I don't know. But we're on the last minute of the day. I should probably take a look at Carvana. Yeah, right around this same range. I'm not really surprised. Still holding the uptrend. We're going to hold it into the close. So we'll see if this can have any further movement to the upside. Finishing the day on positive strength at 15-minute chart. And positive strength. Nice green candle. Can we get further movement to the upside? We're going to find out. Other than that, is there anything else anybody wants me to look at before we end the stream for the day? And I got to move on. I have some errands I need to run. And I also have a dog that's been very, very needy, and he's ready to get some food. So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to post any tickers in the chat. We can go over the NQ real quick. Oh man, Kramer, you haven't seen anything of just wild theories. I know Drift has seen it a few times. I'm not counting out the fact that, you know, I respect gap fills and I respect the 702. Here's your NASDAQ. I looked at this as a 5. You can go back to my videos back in August if you feel the need. I looked at this as a 5-wave structure, rejecting the previous low. There's your wave 5. You get the higher low. 5-wave structure, I look at it as one simple wave. Kind of the theory that I was talking about earlier on Carvana. Where then from that 5-wave structure, I'm looking at a retrace to the 702. That 702 meets up right at my gap. Now let's flip it over to a monthly chart. You have a long-term trend line on the monthly that held. Go back over to the daily. Let's take this retracement out. You get the point with the retracement. I looked at this move as just a simple wave 2. Your wave 3, probably a hold of the trend line. There's your descending channel. Mark the low, mark the low, mark the low, low. Now higher low comes in. There's your descending channel. Now we reject from here. If this cracks, you might have a short pop from this support level right there. Boom. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C. See how you could say that's a 5-wave structure, but is it just a wave 2 pattern? 5-wave structure back to the bottom end of the channel, where then you get a retrace of these previous lows and a further move to these previous highs. I'm not counting it out until I see something different. Not counting out until I see something different. To clean that up, if this is a wave 1, this is your wave 2, Somehow you're going to get a wave 3, testing this COVID top before COVID, retrace the bottoms, and get an exhaustive move down to more support before we have to move up. I'm not counting it out until I see it. I know, man. It's crazy theories. It's just wave structures. For all I know, the Nasdaq blasts through all-time highs, and we get a breakout price up near 17K. But until I see it fight through this gap, which we got pretty damn close today. Did the Nasdaq actually get there today? Here's your 702. Give or take right in that range somewhere. You can adjust this however you feel fit. This is where we're at right now. Is there going to be some sort of rejection? Is there going to be some sort of trend line break where you trade down to the trend line, you set a double top off this level, we break this trend line, and that sends us down, maybe to these previous tops where we have this longer term trend line somewhere rolling in through this? I don't know. I don't know. It's all crazy theories, man. Like I said, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. If you're making investing decisions based on what I've showed you, then I would take caution and make sure that you're using your own investing strategy, something that works for you. Just because it works for me doesn't mean that's going to work for you. So that's the message that I'm gonna leave this live stream off with. And I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and we will be back here tomorrow morning and tomorrow around 2 o'clock as well. So you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.